Welcome to the Democratic Services Committee. Today, shall we start with apologies for absence? Any?
I've had no apologies.
Next item is the disclosures of personal and prejudicial interests. Anybody got any?
I just advise, Chair, that in relation to item number 6, which is the IRPW draft annual report, that will affect all members. So we can take a block declaration there, personal interest only.
Take it you all heard that. Would you put your hands up if you, because we're going to take a block declaration. I think it affects all of us. Is that everybody? Yes, I think. Thank you.
And I will send the forms round for you all to fill in and email them back to us as well. Thanks.
Just lost my minutes. We'll move on to the minutes. Has anybody got any points that they found incorrect on the first page? On the second page? This is difficult. On the third page? Right. Shall we? Would somebody like to approve? Thank you. Seconder? Thank you. James? All in favour? Any abstentions? Anybody against? I think very difficult to see. But right, thank you. All right. Sorry. Yeah, I know. It's just my note had just suddenly whoosh. Couldn't read it. It's too big. Right. The next item is the timing of council meeting survey.
Okay, thank you very much. The Local Government Wales Measure 2011 requires each authority to undertake a survey of councillors regarding the timing and frequency of council meetings. Many councils throughout Wales tended to do this immediately after the elections in May. I see little point in doing it at that point, because with such an influx of new councillors, we had over 20, or was it 21 or whatever we had, I like to give them a chance to bed in for them to understand what they actually need when it comes to the timings of councillors' meetings. So we're 6-7 months in now. It seems an opportune moment for you to look at it. I've put together a draft survey, which I'd like you to comment on, and it's what I used last time. I've also put in my report an extract of the statutory guidance regarding the timing of council meetings, and on the last page of my report is the actual survey. That will be sent to all councillors once you agree it, if you agree it, and then I'll get all the responses, collate them, and take a report to council so that we can formulate a council diary for May 23 onwards. And that will look at, do councillors prefer evening meetings, morning meetings, afternoon meetings, or what have you. The whole point of this survey is to try and ensure that we capture people with caring responsibilities, people who are working, to ensure they are able to get to meetings. You can consider having meetings starting at different times. You don't always have to have Democratic Services Committee, for argument's sake, starting at 4 o'clock every day, not every day, every cycle, but some people prefer the consistency of it. So these are things that we can consider as part of the survey. So with that, any questions or suggestions, please?
Does anybody get any questions or
Chair?
comments?
Chair, it's Leslie
Yes.
Walton. I'm sorry, I cannot find the facility for putting my hand up. I do apologise. I've come up in a different screen. So can I make a comment, please?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. I think the survey's almost fine. I would just rejig the order a bit. And the reason I say that is that the second question asks about meetings, and then question 5 asks about council meetings. I know it's got not council in brackets, but it struck me it'd be more sensible to have the question about council meetings first, then say, and what about the other meetings? Beyond that, the rest of it's more or less okay. Just a suggestion. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have no issue with that. Quite happy to move that if that's what people want.
Is everybody in agreement that we accept the report as it is? Thank you. Anybody against?
Patience bent to ask a question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't. So, Patience, did you want to ask a question?
No, just raising my hand to in agreement with accept.
Oh, right. Okay, thank you. Anybody against? Any abstentions? No, can't see any. Next item is the councillors' annual reports.
Of course, thank you again. This report again stems from the local government Wales measure, very busy measure for democratic services things. It put in place an ability, well, a requirement for each council to have in place a system for councillors' annual reports. Councillors don't need to do an annual report, but the authority must have a system in place whereby if you want to, we can facilitate that. This has been in place since 2011. I've put together this report outlining the guidance on how to prepare it and what we've already agreed as a council. It helps for some of the new councillors so they're aware that they can do this. On page 14 of the agenda, I've set out the annual reports by members of but the statutory guidance, what I should say. And then if I go to the Appendix B of my report, it sets out what the report will look like. The report is limited to 2 sides of A4 for a backbench councillor and no more than 3 pages for a cabinet member. And also a chair of a committee. We've extended it for that. You know, that's a statutory thing, it's not a Swansea rule. Much of the report will be automatically populated by Democratic Services. We just put links into the website about your attendance, so you wouldn't have to look back on that. That's automatically done for you. So the only free sections for you to compile would be section 1, an opportunity for you to set out your constituency activities. Sorry, new teeth, apologies for that. And again, that's not a place for you to be political. It's purely to set out what you've done in your constituency to help, well, to improve it or what have you. And then in section 3, it set out your positions of responsibility. Maybe you're a chair of a committee, maybe you're a champion, maybe you're on some outside body, that sort of thing. And then section 4, initiatives and special activities that you may have carried out. And then section 6 is another free area where you can put anything that you want to highlight that perhaps doesn't fit into the area that it covered elsewhere in the report. The point out that would always confuses people about this annual report, you are talking in the past tense because you will be talking, if you give me your work, your report, it'll be for the period 21-22. It's always a year behind because you're reporting on what you did the previous year. So for the new councillors, they wouldn't be able to get it into me until April 23, which would look back on the previous year. So hopefully that makes sense. Any questions or any comments on that? I know it is something useful because I know the public occasionally do look online and it's a great place to sell yourselves and outline what good work you've done. Nothing further to add on that.
Have we got any comments to make or anybody got any questions?
I just think it's a good idea. And everybody, I know you say people, councillors haven't got to do it, but I'm not saying you should make them, but surely it's the wheat from the chaff when this is going on, because then it shows to your residents that you are working for them. I know it's difficult with new councillors because they haven't been a councillor before anyway, but it takes a while to get your mojo going in your ward. I can understand that, and to get, but I just when I first saw these, I hated them because I thought, and then somebody said to me, well, look what you do. So right, down it goes. And you can, then you can say, well, I've done all that. You don't realise till you read it back what you have actually done. Yeah.
Anybody else? Right, James.
I guess it's just a comment as a new councillor. Yeah, it's really nice to see this, and it's good to know it's out there, and maybe it encourage people to get out into their communities if they, where you say sorting the wheat from the chaff. I think even as a new councillor, there's plenty I could put in there. Probably not as much as a veteran, but yeah, it's really good to see. I mean it in the nicest possible way. And the only, I guess it was just a question for information. You know, what's done to encourage, particularly the newer councillors, to actually fill these in? Does it just go out as a mail later, sort of April time?
Once this report has gone through here, through this committee, I will email it out to all councillors to remind them. I try to routinely do that, and we'd probably do it again in April to remind them. One good tip I'd give all councillors: when you get this email to me from me in April, say, and you're looking to fill it in, and you think, oh, well, what have I done? And you will struggle for things what you've done because you forget of what you have done. So if you keep a little diary of what you've done, or if you kept a blank one by the side of your bed and just jot it down every couple of days what you've done, you'll be amazed how quickly it adds up. And you know, it's not just helping the communities; you can pick up a big project in the community that you've made a difference on, that benefited lots of people.
Anybody else? Can't see any hands up.
Chair,
Oh,
can I come in again? I'm sorry, I try as I might, I cannot find my hand. I just really want to endorse what Wendy says. I would very much like to see all councillors complete an annual report, because I think it is the right thing to do. And also it doesn't do you any harm, because it is a chance for you to say, this is what I've done. I have been trying to support my residents. I have been to the meetings that I'm supposed to go to. It's just a good opportunity to show that you're doing the job that you're being paid for. Thank you.
thank you. Patience?
Yes, thank you, Chair. As a new councillor, I welcome the idea of writing a report each year, but just to ask that or to say that it would be useful when the emails go out next year or prior to April, to let all new councillors know that they're not expected to do it until April 2024. Is it? Am I correct? And yeah, just so that, you know, they don't go, because the knowledge that we had, or the information that we had prior to this meeting, is that we're all expected to do it by next year, which I now understand is not the case for new councillors. So I just think it will be very useful for that information to go out in the emails.
Yeah, let me just clarify that again. So the report is reporting on the previous year's work. So for new councillors, the earliest you could do it would be April next year, looking back on 22-23. For the returned councillors, they could do it immediately because they'd be capturing 21-22. If you understand that. I would make that point clear on the email. I do take the point. I'd make that very clear. That's a good point made by you there.
Okay, thanks very much. Yeah, it's clearer to me now. So yes, we will do it in April. Thanks.
Right. No other comments or questions for Hugh? Right, can't see any. Think. Do we accept this report? Can you put your hands up if you're in favour of accepting it? I think that's unanimous. No, anybody against? No? Okay. Or abstentions? No. Thank you. The next item is another report from the Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales. It's their draft annual report for 23-24, and it's a consultation.
Okay, over to me again. Annually, I bring this report to you. The IRP, the Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales, that's the body that sets out the salaries and other items relating to councillors, about what benefits you get from being, when I say benefits, I use that term loosely, what they give you to enable you to carry out your role. And it's not wider than that, unfortunately. This year, the IRPW have changed their usual format, and to be quite frank, I'm not a fan of the new format. They have only put in place, only outlined, sorry, the new determinations that they've had. So any changes to former years are only those are shown in the report. That's aimed at saving paper, which I see little point at, because I would rather see the full report. Otherwise, when someone asks me a question, I'd have to look at this year's report, then look at next year's, last year's, and the previous years, until I find the determination I need to look at. So what I'd rather they do is keep a simple list of all determinations, and then only expand on the ones that they've changed. I think that will help councillors and certainly officers to find the answers. However, the report goes on specifically to ask a number of questions, 5 questions, which I've taken a stab at answering on behalf of the committee, and to start purely to start debate. It's not set in stone, these can be changed. The first question they ask is outlined on page 20, and it shows how the IRPW have come to their decision about how much a councillor should be paid, and they link that payment to the annual survey of hours and earnings published by the Office of National Statistics, and they're asking, do you agree that the basic salary element should be referenced to that data? You know, that's totally in line with the way they set it out back in 2011. It's been consistent, and obviously they've just changed it to 2021. So a councillor gets paid a councillor is assumed to work 3 days per week, and that's what you get paid. Some of you do more, some do less. I'm not getting into that argument, that's not for me, but I'm just outlining the reasons how they have come to this amount. So the first question, do you agree that it's a logical way to pay?
I will do these one by one. Is there any comments on this or queries? No?
I'm sorry, Chair. I'm
Yes.
finding it also a bit difficult to hear and very frustrating that I can't put my hand up. Are we looking at each one of those individual determinations?
I was going to do it that way for ease, but unless you want to do it a different way.
No, I mean, that's what I'd prefer,
Yes.
if that helps.
Yes. Have you got any comments on this one, Leslie?
I have, yes. I've thought long and hard about this, and I think it's a very difficult decision for me to make, but I have finally come down on the side where I do agree with it, in support of other councillors. I know I can afford not to have this pay rise, and I'm very aware there are people in other work situations that aren't going to be offered anything like as good a percentage, even though inflation is running at 10%. However, I realise that there are other colleagues across Wales who are not as lucky as I am. And on that basis, in support of my many colleagues across the country, I will support this proposal. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Thank you.
I totally agree with Leslie. It's sticking right there with me to have to support, but we are earning still less than some people working in the council, so and still under the minimum wage, are we? If we worked, which we do, which we never work 3 days.
Is
I
it
have-
the
I have
minimum
to put
wage
that
or the
in.
living wage?
Or the living wage, I should say. The living wage.
I can't answer that question with all honesty, because it's based on 3 days per week. Of course, some councils will be doing 5, 6 days a week, and of course that would plummet them well below the minimum wage. But on what it's based, I believe it's above the minimum wage. Just picking up one point, and it is worth noting this, and it is important to make the point. A councillor's current salary is, for a basic salary, 16,800, and that's going to rise to 17,600 if this report by the IRP goes through. What I want to point out to you, that if, as you struggle to find the right page, you are, if an independent member on a Welsh Health Board, now they currently work 4 days per month, not like you, 3 days per week, 4 days per month. They earn £15,936. So councillors are well under that level, well under that level. So, you know, I put that as a useful comparator for you to see what other people in the sector get.
Yeah, I can see, I know what you're saying, Hugh, and I know you can't say, because if it's down as 3, which I think is absolutely ridiculous, it should be on a 5-day week, because I work Saturday and Sunday as well. I work 7 days a week, not 3 days a week. And that's my choice, I know, but I will never turn anybody away. So I feel a little bit that we will be judged with Joe Public that we are getting more than some, but it's only down as 3 days. When I don't work 3 days. It's not your fault. You were just writing a report. You know how I feel. We bring it up every year. And I know Leslie feels exactly the same way as me. I don't need that. But then if I give it to charity, I still got to pay the tax on it.
If I can come back in there quickly as well. I appreciate the difficulties councils have with these type of discussions, but when I say about the 3 days per week, that's what they base the payment on. That's an IRPW issue, and obviously you can lobby on that if you believe it should be more or less. What's an important point, and this is where my other hat in this authority, I sit on the Welsh Government on the WLGA's diversity in democracy body, and wearing that hat, I fully understand the importance of councillors taking these salaries, because if people who can afford not to take the salaries don't take them, that sore thumbs those who can't afford to take the salary, can't afford not to take it, and then they feel obliged not to take it, and it puts them in a difficult situation. And it goes back to the reference I made earlier in the report about the race to the bottom. And the IRPW are very clear. They want us as officers to promote the take-up of salaries. Otherwise, it makes it very difficult for those in need that we're trying to attract into local government, to make it a more diverse body of councillors. Without that financial assistance, it make it very difficult for people. So I understand what Leslie and yourself are saying, Wendy, but they could see why there's a reason for the salaries.
As it is, we can't refuse the increase. You either take the salary or you don't take the salary. I believe that's right.
I'm not sure.
I'm sure
Sorry,
that question's been asked.
Yeah.
in previous years.
Sorry, can I come in? I've had my hand up quite
Okay.
a while, Chair. Can I come in? Hello?
Hello. Do you want to come in?
Yeah, I was going to ask the question. What is the position on individual councillors refusing to take the increase, and what's the position on giving it to charity? Because this is more of a moral question, isn't it, at the moment, considering all the economic downturn we've had and the economic chaos that's coming. I think it's certainly more a moral issue and less of a financial issue. So could you answer that?
I will certainly try to. I will need to check on, right, let's deal with the stages. Firstly, it's up to an individual whether they take the salary or don't take the salary. The council cannot make a decision overall to say the councillors must take or the councillors mustn't take the salary. So it's very much an independent, an individual's decision. As for the tax element, whatever element of the salary you take, you would have to pay tax on it. I will need to check whether you can take part of the salary. I believe you can take any element you want, but I'm not sure, so I need to check that. And I will email you all later this week with an answer on that one. But I will check that on that element for you, Joe.
Thanks very much.
I understand if you have money taken out of your salary direct to a charity, there is a benefit tax-wise, but I don't know the ins and outs of them. That's something each would have to check up themselves.
I
Eric?
mean, you should really give it some consideration outside of this committee, really. You know, we've got food banks now operating in Morriston Hospital because healthcare workers can't afford to feed their families because they're on low pay. So, you know, as not only civic leaders, but maybe sometimes as moral leaders as well. But maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should take a decision that this time round we don't accept it. I mean, we all go into being councillors because we know there's an element of doing things 7 days a week, of doing things on call, if you like. If we were to go along the route of saying, well, you know, I go out at 7 o'clock on a Sunday, but will we expect at some point to get an enhanced rate of salary as a councillor? I just think that the Welsh government and councils in Wales should be taking the moral high ground. We're still we have one of the highest areas of poverty in Western Europe. Still get so fed up saying it, and yet, you know, we're discussing whether we should take, or whether it's right for us to take a pay rise when the majority of the country in a few months, the majority of the country is suffering already, to be honest. Thanks very much.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Erica?
Sorry, I'm having trouble with my PC. Yeah, thank you for this. This is an emotive subject. We all feel about that. Nobody's come into politics or to serve their community for money. We've come in because we hope we can make a difference somewhere. Now, I'm speaking of somebody who was a sole trader and had to make a decision years ago whether I put my energies and my emotional stance into that, or did the council work, because I personally couldn't manage the two. So I made the decision, and I knew it would bring poverty, to do the council work, because that's the stuff, you know, I love doing. We all love doing it, being in the community and seeing if we can make a difference. So I'd rather not talk about money at all. However, I am on the poverty line and I support my family as well. And I fit in with many of my residents who are really, really struggling. And we're talking food banks and we're talking about helping each other out. So I do welcome the rise. It's £1,000 because that will enable me to keep my work going. And I do appreciate what people have said. You know, it's great if you're in the position, you don't have to take it, but I'm not the only councillor who actually needs it to keep working. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just clarify that briefly? It's £800 is the raise, not 1,000, just to keep that in mind.
Thank you, Hugh.
I was just going to say exactly what Erica said, even though I said about it there, I don't want to take it, but that's not for me to decide. When Erica's truthfully said what there's other people who are councillors are in exactly the same state as Erica. So for me to say, oh no, this is rubbish, we don't need it. If I did on my husband's pension, then I would be saying what Erica's saying, because we wouldn't have the money. So I know what Joe's on about. We all know what it's going to be, but Joe's working as well. There's others that are working, and that's fine. So you don't need the money, but some people do need the money, and I'm not being sort of saying this because, but that's Erica brought it up first. So we have to think of our colleagues as well.
Thank you, Wendy. It's a balance. You've got to think of councillors that need it, and you discourage them from being councillors against our budgets and trying to keep public services going. And it's not easy.
Can I just say on that? I know Wendy said that I work, and I'm most probably out of the house 60 hours a week, 50, 60 hours a week, and it's extremely busy at the moment with what I do. But I'm also a one-parent family. I've also got a mortgage to pay, and so I'm not in the greatest position that people might think. And I also earn 2 wages. My wage in the health service is actually subsidised by Welsh Government. I get the Welsh Government subsidy, because if they didn't give me the subsidy, I'd earn less than the living wage. And I'm also earning less than the living wage, or I get a subsistence from council, which is our attendance allowance, that is also just around the living wage. So I'm not in the greatest position. Thanks very much, sir.
Thank you. Do you want to vote on each item separately, or do you want to go to the end?
We've seemed to be all agreeing with question 1, just purely do you agree that it should be linked to the annual survey of hours and earnings? So I think it's probably worth taking a vote on each one, not just to see for that response first.
Right. Can we show of hands of all those in favour? I think manual hands might be easier to see than all the little yellow ones. Thank you. Right. Any abstentions? Anybody against? Oh, there's a yellow hand. Oh, no, it's gone down. Right.
So that is all 4 then. Thank you on Q1.
Move forward to question 2.
Question 2. So what I've got here, it's mainly for community town councils, but I've left it in there just for ease. And the panel are suggesting that costs of expenses for community members, for members of community town councils, should be put in place. I've put it down. We think it's logical, but it's not for us as an authority specifically. But obviously, we're entitled to have an opinion. It should be what an opinion.
Anybody got any questions on this or comments? Can't see any other hands or hands up. Shall we take a vote on this one? Is everybody in agreement with it? You show of hands. It's easier. Thank you. I think that's unanimous. We'll move on to question 3.
Okay, question 3 again. It looks at the workload of elected members, saying that it's changed, and they're keen that the panel should build into review its future work plan and build the evidence base to support decisions. So basically, through consultation with us, through meeting with councillors and the like, to ensure that the payments and the support that councillors get is accurate. So it's a logical thing that we should say yes to, in my mind. So at least they can evidence why they're coming up with these decisions.
The question? Can't see anybody with hands up. Shall we take a vote as to those who agree? Put your hand up. We can see if you agree with that. Anybody against? Any abstentions? Can't see any. No. Okay, thank you. Right, question 4.
This is to do with, it's a bit of a random one really. How would we like to get the information and guidance from the panel? I'm almost minded to tick them all, to be honest. They were, unless, because obviously everyone likes information in different formats. By ticking them all, it'll ensure that whoever needs it in whatever format they get, they'll be able to get it that way.
Again, any questions or comments? No. Shall we have a show of hands if we're in agreement? Okay. Erica, have you got, oh yes, you've got a yellow one. Thank you. Anybody against? Any abstentions? No. Right, we move on to the final question.
And the final question is, the panel intends to take a series of engagements with all relevant stakeholders. How would you, any suggestion how you'd shape that engagement? I presume it's talking about face-to-face meeting, focus groups, teams meetings or whatever, or any suggestions you've got to add to that? Face-to-face, just any suggestions really? Or do you agree with, they suggested online polls, holding of engagement events, virtual or face-to-face, and which groups should be involved and how we engage with prospective candidates.
Has anybody got any suggestions or questions? Leslie? Hey, James?
It's just a comment, really. I mean, all of those seem pretty reasonable. I mean, I don't know what more they want us to say. The only thing that's not on there would be the only time you get all the councillors together is at a full council. And reluctant though I am to suggest anything there, you know, there's an argument it could at least be announced or commented on in some form at full council if they really want to make sure that everyone's at least heard about it, even if it was just an announcement that there is an event or an online poll or whatever.
Thank you.
Okay, if I go then to the specifics of what the determination changes are for this year, as we mentioned, the basic salary is proposed to rise by £800. The senior salaries have gone up as outlined in the report. I'm not going to go through each one individually because it's in the report. The salary for a chair of a joint overview and scrutiny committee, which we don't have in Swansea, has gone up slightly by £7 and £4 respectively. And determination 4 sets out this payment to the community and town councillors, which is equivalent to £3 a week for them towards heating, lighting, power and broadband. And the final determination is to do with payments to national park authorities and fire and rescue authorities, which sees an uplift of 4.76%. I have nothing else to add other than what's been outlined in my report.
Thank you, Hugh. Any final comments or questions before we agree to accept the whole report? No, just have it. Oh, Erica. Well, you're accepting the report.
I'm just
Okay.
accepting, sorry, Chair.
Oh, can we have a show of hands? People accept it. So that's everybody. No, I can't see somewhere they. Anybody against? Oh, nobody's shouting up. Abstentions? No. Thank you. Right, down to the final item, which is the work plan. Coming here.
So with the work plan, if I take you back to the minutes, I will be bringing a report on councillor training to see what type of things you need, what that you would like to be receive additional training in. Obviously, I keep feed things through as they come, as things are made aware to me. But now and again, I'd like to put a plan, a program in place that would help. I did say at the last meeting that I will be bringing a report to revisit the induction program, and now that's finished, I can put in the attendance and any lessons learned. We did touch on it briefly at the last meeting, but obviously I'll have more data at the next time we discuss that. I will circulate the timings of meetings surveying out to all councillors, and that in turn I'll take that direct to council. I don't see little point in bringing it back here in the first instance. Other than that, I've got nothing at this stage I need to add to the work plan, but obviously I'm open to any suggestions that you may have as councillors.
Anybody got anything they'd like to add to the work plan? Oh, hello. Thank you. Go on.
Am I okay to just make a quick comment? As a new councillor, I massively appreciated the workshop day that went alongside with the training. It was very good to put names to faces and something other, because as a new councillor, the entire council seems to run on first names. And when somebody says, "Oh, I've got an issue with the bins," and they say, "Oh, we'll speak to X, speak to Y," and it one challenge I found is that while it was good to speak to everybody individually, I think it would be useful for new councillors just to have a directory of who their best point of contact would be in certain departments. Just a way of, I appreciate that many people wouldn't have been able to get to the open day, but for those who were unable to get there, just a précis of what happened and who was there and what they were selling and showing, I think would be most appreciative, because I think it would just help sort of break down a lot of maybe the jargon and maybe just the apprehension around who to speak to. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for that, Adam. The marketplace event, as we called it, yeah, it certainly did go well. The feedback, some of these sessions on that day were recorded, and they are available online. If you look at swansea.gov.uk/councillors, you can look up some of the training events. Obviously, the marketplace event itself was a bit of a, I'll use the word free for all loosely, in that people could merge and mingle and talk to people. So obviously that couldn't be recorded because there were several one-on-one conversations there. We have encouraged people to use generic email addresses by way of contact, so that when you contact somebody, you're going to get a reply. Whereas if you give an individual's name, if they're on leave or what have you, you're not going to get the responses. In the first instance, we always urge you to go to the head of service, unless, of course, you've built up a direct line with somebody. But ideally, it should be via the generic email or the head of service if there isn't one in place. Hopefully that helps there.
Chair, I understand the directory is being compiled at the moment. I saw something being circulated last week. Did you, Hugh? I think
That's
was
gone to all councillors. Yeah, you would have had one within the last fortnight that had been sent out. It went out initially about 3 months ago. Went out again about a fortnight ago. That's only got a small number on it of key officers, but that's aimed to assist as well.
Yeah. Sorry, Wendy.
That's all I would say, Adam, is keep a little black book in your phone even, because once you've got an officer's name and they're very responsive, then you keep using that officer.
And it does vary into which area you live in as to which officer you contact. Pardon? Matthew?
Yeah, just picking up on what Hugh said there about the generic emails. I've always found those exceptionally good, to be honest. And if you think you've got an issue with street lighting, if you just type street lighting into your Outlook email search, it'll come up with the email address that, you know, streetlighting@swansea.gov.uk, or like telematics for street light for traffic lights and stuff like that. So they're pretty easily found as well. You don't have to go, you know, searching. And as Hugh rightly said, there's been 1 or 2 occasions where I've emailed officers direct, and through no fault of their own, they're either on annual leave or maybe they're unwell, and it's maybe a response that I've needed fairly urgently. So then I've gone to the generic email as well then. So, but I've always found them really good, I gotta be honest. So just my experience.
Thank you.
And picking up on that as well, don't forget there is the website. I'm trying to look what it's called. I've got it on my phone. I use it occasionally. It's Report It. I can't think of it. Yeah, if you just Swansea, I think it's called Report It. Yeah, I'll send it out. I'll send it out to all councillors. I'm looking at it, but I can't find the title of it. I'll forward that to all councillors because it's really useful, and it sets out one link on your phone, and then it tells you if you're a report missed bin collection, or you see fly tipping or overflowing litter bin, fly posting. There's loads of stuff there, and it's only one button away, one press of a button. So it's really useful. Gets to the right people really quickly.
Thank you. Any other suggestions for training? Any other suggestions for items for the work plan? I think that's it then.
Just give you that website web address. It's www.swansea.gov.uk/report it. Report it, and that's really useful. I've saved it to my phone, so it's one press of a button and you can get an email out or a message to the right places really quickly. And that's obviously for general use, public and all. I keep telling people that it's very useful.
Thanks everybody for coming along and logging in this afternoon. That's the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Good Chair.
Thank you. Bye bye.